Bezat Hashem, we're going to look at both Parashat Tetzaveh and Megillat Esther, as we are right on Erev Shabbat, Parashat Tetzaveh, Parashat Zachor, and Tanit Esther is Monday night is the Megillah reading, Tuesday Megillah, all the mitzvot of Purim. So let us try to come to some understanding of what we are doing during these weeks, during the Zman of Purim, the Zman of Adar. We already spoke about in the past that Adar is a month of unity, right? The month of giving shkalim, the month that everybody's a machatzit hashekel, everybody's a half a shekel, everyone's important, which is a very important insight for Judaism. It's a very important insight for being Jews, to understand that we're all important in front of Hashem's eyes. Mm-hmm. I remember once I came to a place and there were many Choshev Rabbanim there, and the person had some association with me and he wanted me to speak there. But I told him, Be'emes, I didn't come to speak. I came to, join in the Simcha, and I really have to leave very quick. And I didn't expect to speak. I said, especially if such Choshev Rabbanim here, how Shaykhis, for me to skip the line, so to speak. So he said no. I said I'll have to ask Mechila from the Rabbanim here. So I said to them, listen, he asked me to speak. I feel bad. You guys are here before me, and status and all that. And they all said to me the same thing. They said, what do you mean? You're saying Dvar Torah, we're saying Dvar Torah, we're all saying it L'Shem Shemayim. Who cares? You're going, I'm going this way, we're all doing. In the end of the day, we're all having the same end goal, to make Hashem's name sanctified. And that's a very, very important idea when it comes to Yahadut, when it comes to Judaism, that we have to understand. It's not about me, it's not about that guy, it's not about this guy, it's about what I can do for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What can I do for L'Shem Shemayim? What can I do to be Kadosh Shem Shemayim? That's what it means to be a Jew. That's why we're all Shekalim Machatzit HaShekel. You're a half, I'm a half, this guy's a half. We all have to get together to bring unity. That's what we spoke about on Parshat Shekalim. We spoke about last week, on the Shabbat day, we spoke about Adar, which is Adur, which means we want HaKadosh Baruch Hu to live with us. I mean, we have to live with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have to bring him into our lives. When we learn Torah, it shouldn't be Torah for intellectual knowledge. It shouldn't do, I'm doing a mitzvah to do the Arbas Minim. Yes, I have to do these mitzvot. I have to eat matzah and Pesach. I have to do Dal Minim on Sukkot. I have to do all these things. And I have to learn Torah. But don't forget to bring Hashem into the Torah. Don't forget to bring Hashem into the mitzvot that you do. When you have Hashem in front of you, then you realize the mitzvah I'm doing because HaKadosh Baruch Hu said I had to do it, that is a whole different ballgame. Because then it's not me, but it's because of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is Chodesh Adar. The essence of Chodesh Adar is becoming Kimu V'Kiblu, to once again accept the Torah, to once again become a nation. The Midrash tells us, whenever it says in the Megillah as follows, La Melech Achashverosh, but Melech Achashverosh HaKatuv Medaber. It's speaking really about Achashverosh. V'chol Makom Shenemar La Melech Stam, and whenever it says La Melech, Melech Stam, it says king, Mishamish Kodesh V'chol. It's referring to both Hashem and Ahashverosh, which is a really, really crazy idea if you think about it. It says Lamelech, Ahashverosh, and Hashem. To say that one word to compare both the Melech Malchei Hamlochim and Ahashverosh, that's what the Midrash says. The Chomok B'Shenemar Lamelech Sitam Mishamesh Kodesh V'chol. It's referring to Hashem and Ahashverosh. Okay, so we have a pasuk. Let's take a look how we apply this. Achar dvarim ha'ela, kishol chamat hamelech Achashverosh, right? Hamelech Achashverosh. What does that mean? Actually, Achashverosh, because it says hamelech Achashverosh. Zachar v'ashti v'et asher aseta v'et asher nigzar aleya. Okay, now you have the next pasuk. Vayomru na'arei hamelech. And says the Nara, the king's young man, Mesharitam, his servants, Yevakeshu lamelech na'arot betulot tovot mareh. Let them seek for the king young maidens who look pretty. Who is this referring to in this pasuk? It says lamelech, hamelech. That means it's Achashverosh and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How could this be? So, we have to understand a very important concept. The concept is that nothing in this world works, like we were saying in the beginning, without HaKadosh Baruch Hu's guiding hand. Says the Maharal as follows. There is a pasuk in Mishlei that says, Pagei Mayim Lev Melech Beyad Hashem. What does that mean? A king's heart is like rivulets of water in the hand of Hashem. El kol asher yahpot yatenu. Wherever he wishes, he turns it. The Dubna Maggid explained this pasuk. You ever have to make irrigation canals? Right? One of the wonders of Egypt and how they made the Nile work for them so they can have food to eat was the irrigation canals. The Nile, and in the ground they made holes, right? Ditches and holes for irrigation so the water to go from the Nile into the waters or into the fields further in. That's an irrigation. So says the Dubna Maggid, a man wants to water his field. He digs an irrigation channel along the length of his field until the riverbank. Then he makes an opening in the river, and water comes bursting out to flow into the channel and water the field. If you ask the water, it would tell you he did it. He jumped out of the river and got all the way down there, right after the water would think. It found the breach, it flowed through the hole, and came pouring through without stop. But we know, did the water have any free choice in this matter? Who made it? The farmer. The farmer is the one who made the irrigation channel, right? Who made the way for it to go, and the water just came and went that way. Says Rav Galinsky him to be Higadato. The king thinks that he's making all the choices, that he's the initiator, he's the executor, but the truth is everything is already directed by Yad Hashem. Wherever he wishes it, that's the way he directs it. This is particularly true of Ahashverosh. There were instances where Ahashverosh was clearly being maneuvered by heaven, and his actions were determined from above. When he killed Vashti and chose Esther instead, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was already putting the refuah before the makkah, which is very interesting. The Midrashim say that Esther what color was her skin? Greenish. You ever found a guy who said, I want a green wife? I want someone who looks green? Not only they want, I found favor. I love this woman. She's older too.
Maybe he was colorblind.
And everything else. Even if he was colorblind, why did he do this? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted this to happen. Mordechai wants to hide Esther
against the nature.
But Hashem takes her out. Right? And Hashem makes it happen. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running this world. When he wants something to happen, it's going to happen. We have to understand that. There's a very important concept here, Rabotai. Listen to this. Rav Shem Tov Faluquera, in his Igeret HaMusar, tells over this story.
Faluquera?
Yeah, Faluquera. That's the name he has here. Of a king who saw a man whose face was shining. Wisdom radiating from his face. And the king asked him, who are you? So the king of the country, king of the empire, thank you. And he sees this man who has a very shining face. And he tells him, well, who are you? Tell me, you look so nice. Tell me who you are. So this man with the nice shining face tells the king, why? Why are you asking? I am the king. He's telling the king, he's the king. The other guy with the shining face is telling the actual king, I'm the king. So the king becomes furious. And he says to him, what nerve? Pretending to be the king is treason. I should have your head chopped. You're going around telling people you're the king. But the king, said, okay. Maybe you're a ruler of a faraway land. Maybe you're a king from somewhere else that you're visiting by. The king says to him, what country do you rule? Listen what this wise man tells him. He says to him, I am the king over the one who you serve. Basically, you're a slave, and that person who is in charge of you, I'm his king. He's telling that to the king. He's telling the king, you're a servant for someone else, and I'm in charge of that guy. He says, I'm the ruler over the one whom you serve. The king barked and demanded, explain right now. He's got his guys with the sword ready to take him over. He says, please don't get angry. Your Majesty, the king, I am your subject. Right? I'm your citizen. But you are a slave to a slave. And because I rule over my Yetzer, you are a slave to them. So he was telling this king, I've reached such a level that my Yetzer Hara, my passions, my emotions, my feelings do not rule me. Instead, what does rule me? I rule myself. I become to such a level that I can control myself. I can restrain myself. But you, king, you're still a slave to your passions. And as such, since I'm able to rule my Yetzer and you listen to your Yetzer Hara, I am in fact a king over the one who rules you. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, in his Sefer HaKuzari, the king of the Khazars asks the Chacham, the sage, he tells him, who does Judaism consider to have reached the highest level in Judaism? Right? Whether it's an actual historical fact that the king of the Khazars asked this Chacham, or is Rabbi Yehuda Halevi's imagination of a narrative story? That's for another time. But that's the question that's asked in his Sefer. The king of the Khazar, which is a non-Jewish country, who then converts, him and the entire country convert to Judaism at that time. So he asks this Chacham, this sage, who is considered the highest level in Judaism? And the Chacham answers, the Hasid, the most pious man in Judaism, is one who rules his kingdom, who provides all his citizens with their food and with their needs in the correct measure. He treats everyone fairly. He doesn't exploit any man and doesn't give any man more than he deserves. When he needs his subjects, he finds them ready and willing to obey. They listen to him. They're quick to answer him. They do everything he says. And the Khazar tells him, I asked you who is the most pious and high special level guy in Judaism, not about a ruler. I didn't ask you who was the Melech. And the sage tells him, the Chacham tells him, the biggest Hasid is the Melech. A Melech of what? The one who is able to control himself. He's a ruler to himself. He was able to control his emotions. He doesn't scream at the whim because his body's telling him to scream. He doesn't cut people off in traffic because I want to get through. He doesn't let his feelings, his emotions, his temperament, his natural state of being to control him. Rather, he himself is the ruler. Tov erech hapayim migibor. Greater is the erech hapayim than the gibor. Don't just read this, Abotai. Don't just read this. Don't just read this pasuk of Mishlei. Really internalize it. Tov erech hapayim migibor. The stronger person is the one who's able to control himself. Umoshel berucho miloched er. And one who's able to control his passions, his emotions, his feelings, is stronger than miloched er. Brute strength is nothing to be proud of. Person went out, he worked out in the gym. Person was born with better genetics. Some people are born with better genetics. They're stronger. They're they come with strength. They eat. I used to ask my grandmother. I said, how come they're certain goyim, especially by the Russians, were so strong? They're giborim like this. And I'm a Jewish guy. I'm like, tiny and skinny. So what they would answer you? What?
Eat better.
No, they say they eat pigs, so the pig gives them strength. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what they tell me. They eat pigs, so they get strength. The Jews, we eat behemoth, right? Animals that are kaliham, are submissive, are listening, are respectful. They don't make trouble. We don't eat tigers and lions and stuff like that. We eat domestic animals like cows. You see a cow at the farm? Oh, you just eat the grass, whatever you put in front of him. Then lamb, the sheep. Why? Kadosh Baruch Hu gives us only to eat these type of animals. The birds, any bird that's a bird of prey, we can't eat it. A bird of prey means that they go and they hunt. We don't eat those type of birds. Why? Because Kadosh Baruch Hu didn't want to give us that nature. When you are what you eat, right? Right? Esav said, give me this red stuff, right? And then he was called red. He's called Edom. Why? Because that you are what you eat. Right? So be careful. You might, if you eat Chinese food a lot, you might be Chinese. You're a Chinaman. If you eat a lot of sushi, you're Japanese. It's the end of the day. You are what you eat. So Kadosh Baruch Hu tells us you got to eat these proper stuff because these are the kosher stuff that are going to make you remain kosher. And so, calming your passions, taming yourself, this is the greatest ruler ever. This is what it means to be a true melech. They tell you when you get married, you're the king, she's the queen. So most people think, I'm the king, I can say whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. You didn't understand what they're telling you. You're the king now. Meaning you have to rule over yourself. Until now, you were in your parents' house. And your father and mother taught you how to behave. Your father and mother taught you do this, don't do that, do that. Now you get married, you're a melech. You're a king. How are you a king? You're only a king if you can control yourself. If you can't control yourself, you're a behemoth in the street. You're a wild animal. You're a bandit. Never mix up what Chazal say. Chazal say a melech is someone who can control his passions. A hatan is supposed to be doimel a melech because he's supposed to be controlling his passions. He restrains his anger from breaking free. Chazal tell us in the pasuk in Vayikra 25:42, Avadai hem, they are my servants. We should be servants of Hashem and not a slave of slaves. As Rav Belsky, so Chazik Bracha would say, imagine a person is a slave to someone else. It's very embarrassing, right? The guy is a slave to another human. Imagine a person is a slave to a dog. Imagine the dog is his master. Even more embarrassing. It says Rav Belsky, how many people are slaves to potato chips, to Twizzlers, to coffee? They're literally slaves to their indulgences. They're slave to their passions. They have no way to say no. They have no way to restrain themselves. They're the slave of slaves. It's so embarrassing. They're nowhere to be, not considered kings. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi says, Avdei hazeman, avdei avadim him. Those who are slave to time are slaves to slaves. Exactly what he means by slave to times can be taken into different contexts. I think I can't do something now, I can't do something then. Perhaps slave to times means I'm a slave to the fashion and the mode of the times. Everybody needs a certain thing and I need that. That's one of the biggest slavery things. That's peer pressure. That's all slavery. I'm doing what someone else says to do. But the Eved Hashem, but a person who's a servant to Hashem, who follows what HaKadosh Baruch Hu say, Hu levado chavshi. He is the only one who is free. Akein bivakesh enosh chelko. Therefore, when a man asks for his portion, what should he say? Chelki Hashem omra nafshi. The Lord is my portion, says the soul, says my soul. We want to be free. The only true freedom is when a person learns Torah And he's able to apply that to his life and to control his emotions, his raw emotions, his natural state of being. He's able to control it. That is the only time you are really free. Because otherwise, your body rules over you. It tells you what to do, when to do it, how to do it. You know, imagine this. You have a Gadol Hadar, Rav Avram Pam, Zecher Tzadik Lebracha, Rosh Yeshiva of Torah V'Dar. He's walking out of yeshiva, and he has his talmidim following him. And one of these young boys is playing outside with his friends, and he tells his friend, Avrumi, I'm going to throw you the ball. And Rav Pam answers back, okay, give me a second, let me get ready. Rav Pam's name is Rav Avram Pam. He heard someone saying Avrumi. He thought he was talking to him. He didn't think, I'm Rosh Yeshiva, they're not going to call me Avrumi, they're going to say Rav, Agoin, this, that. In his mind, he's able to control what people would say, I'm deserved a certain honor. I'm deserved a certain kavod. I'm deserved a certain thing. That's all your passion growing at you. The Pirkei Avot says, running after honor is going to take a person out of this world, chas v'shalom. Because why? You're running after something else. You're not being you. You're not being who you can be. Rav Galinsky says there was a man that was once addicted to liquor, hard drink. He spent all his money on it. His friends and the family, they try to intervene and try to wean him off the bottle and help him this way and help him that way. And the man, this guy says to his family member, he says, listen.
It's a deal.
He says, no, this is not the deal story. He says, you're trying to tell me not to drink? You should know, I myself made a list of 100 reasons why it's not good for me to drink. But I don't know what to tell you. The drink tastes so good, I can't stop. This guy knows himself it's not good. But he can't control himself. He can't control himself. A person who works with Bali Tshuva, people who are coming back to Judaism, he comes to Rabbi Galinsky. He says, Rabbi Galinsky, I have a question. He says, I was giving a seminar to Bali Tshuva, and I taught them what it says in Masechet Shabbat. It says in Masechet Shabbat, Ma Har Sinai, Har Shirada Sina L'umat Ha'olam Alav. Why is it called Har Sinai? Because hatred toward the nations happened. Hashem hates, so to speak, the nations. We have to understand what that means. When we were at Har Sinai. Why? Rashi says, why did Hashem start to hate the nations at Har Sinai? Shelo kiblu bo Torah. Hashem's hatred were towards the nations of the world because they didn't accept the Torah. This is the famous Gemara that says, based on a pasuk, Hashem is Sinai ba v'zarach mis'ir lamo hofia mahar paran. What does this mean, says the Gemara? The Gemara says, and the Sikta Rabbatai says as follows, that Hashem took the Torah and went to Esav and said to Esav, do you want the Torah? And Esav says, what does Esav say? What does it say in there?
Don't kill.
Says, Lo tirtzach, don't kill. And Esav says, what do you mean? Al charbecha tihyeh, it says, we live by the sword. We kill. Who came up with the gladiators? The Romans. Bnei Edom. What happens is the games ends when? When someone's killed and everybody's cheering and blood's spurting all around. And by the way, don't think it's gone. This, they might not be killing people in the extent that they kill in the gladiator games, but in their movies, gore, right, is everywhere. In their sports, in everything that they do, in the video games, how much gore is there, right? They were saying at one point, there was a lot of teens that were stealing cars and shooting people for real life, and they were blaming it on the game Grand Theft Auto, right? Everyone was playing, remember Grand Theft Auto? Everyone was playing, steal the guy's car, run over the person, take his money. I never played the game, by the way, but I've seen the game. My father never let me play that game. My father should be well. live and be well. He never let us play a game. Even when we had video games at home, he always went through which video game we had and what we were allowed to play and what not. He would make spot checks, make sure that everything was correct. But I've seen my friends play the game. But that's an issue, right? Because we get familiarized. Now, before we move on, Esav said, what does it say in the Torah? And it says don't kill. That's not in the Torah. It is in the Torah, but it's not only in the Torah. Lo tirzach, don't kill, was one of the ready Sheva mitzvot b'nei Noach. Are b'nei Noach allowed to kill somebody? No. So there was no new chidush. So what does it say in the Torah? Don't kill. Don't kill is already one of Sheva mitzvot b'nei Noach. So I'm not going to deal with that today, but that's something you should deal with in the future. It's actually a very interesting answer. Next, he goes to Ishmael. He tells Ishmael, you want the Torah? What does Ishmael say? What does it say there? He says to them, Lo tignov. Don't steal. Again, as B'nai Noach, are you allowed to steal? No. So, no chidush here again in this law that he's taught. But anyway, he says, Pere Adam, Yadho Bakol. What do you mean? How can we do this? That's what's it called? Ishmael said. Am Yisrael. What did they say? Kol asher diber Hashem na'aseh v'nishma. Whatever Hashem says, we're going to do. So this guy who's in charge of the Bali Tshuva, he's teaching them. He says, one of the lawyers in the group, he said, listen, what did Esav do wrong? That hatred came to Esav and the nations because they said, what's written in the Torah? Says the lawyer, as a lawyer, I recommend you always never sign any documents without reading it with a fine-tooth comb, right? Make sure everything, every letter, every way, everything is checked. They always tell you, get a lawyer present, right? When you're buying the house, you have your lawyer there. You're hoping they're checking all the material, right? If he knows what he's doing, all right? So the lawyer says to this rabbi, he says to him, what did Esav do wrong? What does it say inside? That's a valid question. So the Avrech, the guy who was teaching him, says, I didn't know, but I'm going to find out for you. So he goes to Rabbi Gilinsky, and he asks Rabbi Gilinsky, what should I tell this guy? So Rabbi Gilinsky tells him, what do you mean? It's Beferish on the Gemara. A daf back. What does the daf say? There was a Tzeduki that came to Rava, saw Rava was learning, and while he was learning, he wasn't paying attention to his body, and he started bleeding from his fingers. So he tells him, I'm a Paziza, right? You're the reckless nation. Here you're learning Torah and you're bleeding from it. And there you said, Na'aseh v'nishma. You guys are always reckless. And what did Rava answer? Rava said, we have faith in a Kadosh Baruch Hu. That what? Hashem would never ask us to do something we can't do. If your loving father tells you to do something, you know he loves you, you know it's for the best. And therefore you're not worried. Klal Yisrael are Hashem's children. We trust our Father entirely. The nations of the land, the nations of the world, they don't see themselves as being God's children to that extent. So the Avrech tells the Rabbi Gilinsky, this is a very nice answer, but I'm dealing with Baalei Tshuva. They're not yet on that level. We're children, not children, Emunah. I need to give them some other answer. So Rabbi Gilinsky tells him, okay, you want a different answer that the lawyer will accept? I'll tell you an answer you can give him. He says to him, what did Esav say? Esav said, I'm a smart guy. I don't do things without thinking it over, right? I don't do things without reading it over, thinking it over, making sure I'm doing the right thing. So I do that. That's what I do. And you're right. What's wrong? Well, nothing wrong with that. But says Rabbi Gilinsky, what did Esav say when he was tired and hungry? V'yomer Esav Yaakov haliteni na min ha'adom ha'adom hazeh ki hayef anochi ha'ken kerat shemo. Edom, he said to him, Esav walks in, he just did 5 averot, he killed somebody else. He comes in, he says, I'm hungry, I want to eat. Open my throat and pour the red lentil soup. It's not even cooked yet. Pour it down my throat. Did he think about it? Did he make sure it was cooked? Did he see what ingredients it was? Nothing. He just threw it down his throat. So Esav,
Why he so shake? Yaakov Avinu doing it. You took it. What?
Esav, he didn't even wait to eat it step by step. He did it so quick and reckless. Imagine taking a pot off the stove and throwing it down your throat. You're going to burn your throat. That's what Esav did. He was straight there, put it down. So says Rabbi Galinsky, if Esav always acted the same way, and he said, I always check everything. Chai, you also want to check? I understand you. You're not a bad guy. But there, he's ready to go and eat everything fast. But when it comes to Judaism, when it comes to Torah, now all of a sudden I have to read clearly. I have to make sure. I have to do all these different things. Is it any wonder that they got the hatred from HaKadosh Baruch Hu towards them? Because what? They're checking out HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They don't trust HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But everything else they trust. What about a Jew? A Jew, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, get these 4 species for the time of Sukkot. A citron, a myrtle branch, a willow, a palm frond. We take it all. We find it, we import it, we export it, we bring it in, we spend hundreds of dollars. It makes absolutely no sense. Any rational, sane person, get these 4 things, put it together, tie it up, wave it this way, wave it that way, and you think you fell off Mars. Right? Anyone who's not associated with Judaism and a sane guy, he's logical, tell me this is what I do, it's Mishmah, I spend $500 for this, the guy's going to think you're nuts. But we do that. But when we want to eat food, what do? We make sure, is it kosher, is it not kosher? We wash our hands first. Everything is done. We ask one rabbi, is it kosher? If it's not a good answer, we ask another rabbi. Depending on our stations in life, we figure out what to do, but we're not fast in acting that way. Ahashverosh, let's go back to Ahashverosh. Ahashverosh, what does he do when he finds out about his wife refusing? Kills her. By the way, what day of the party did this happen on? That Vashti was killed. That Vashti said no, and he killed her. What day was this? The 7th day of what? Of the party of Shushan. He's already been partying for half a year. Okay? With all sorts of parties, all sorts of people. You would think this guy would be happy and will let something slide. But not Ahashverosh. All that partying didn't make him any more happy. And what? He kills his wife right there. He's enraged. He has a fury. He can't control himself. So then the question really is, why do we say Hamelech HaHashverosh? What type of king is he? What type of king is he? Chachamim tell us. Man Malchei. Who are the kings? Who are the kings?
Who can find the yes, change the yes.
Rabbanan, the rabbis. Man Malachei Rabbanan. Dichtiv bi melachim imlochu. Kings reign with me. And Torah grants a person sovereignty and dominion to rule first and foremost over himself. You want to know if someone's a real Talmid Chacham? Can he control his passions? If he cannot control his passions, the Torah has not yet seeped into him correctly. As we say, Talmid Chacham, marbim shalom ba'olam. They bring peace into this world. How do they bring peace into this world? They're sitting in the Beit Midrash. How do they bring peace into this world? Because when they're able to control their passions, they show that to other people. People learn from that. That's how they bring peace. They're not fighting with the other guy. They're not fighting with this guy. They themselves are peacemakers. You understand? Aharon the Kohen, Ohev Shalom Verodev Shalom. How did it happen? He just became one day, he's a nice guy. I'm a really nice guy. I'm going to help everybody out. No. The Torah that he learned, that he worked, that he became close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He became Ohev Shalom Verodev Shalom. He's able to make peace with everybody. He's a man of peace. His life was a shtick of shalom. He lived shalom. That was who he was. The Torah made him that way. This is what the Midrash means when it says that Sha'im have completely ceded all control to their evil inclination. Who's the Rasha? A Rasha is somebody who doesn't have control at all. That's why they say the word Rasha the letters of the Rasha. Is Rashi Tevot is an acronym for what? You ever heard this one? Rasha stands for Ribono Shel Olam. What shaykhs to Rasha to Ribono Shel Olam, the master of the world? The Rasha is crying out, Ribono Shel Olam, help me! I cannot help myself. I have no control over myself. Ribono Shel Olam, help me out. That's a Rasha. To be a Rasha, you have to be on Madriga. Not everybody's a Rasha. Some people are so bad, they're not Rashaim. A Rasha is somebody who's screaming out, Ribono Shel Olam. His heart is screaming out, like, please help me. I have no control over myself. There you go. The wicked. Yodi'im harisha'im shedrakam lemita. The Rasha knows what he's doing wrong. He knows what he's doing in life is wrong. Amar naval bilibo, says the Tehillim. The degenerate says to himself in his heart, he has to convince himself that I'm doing the right thing, because he really knows that I'm doing the wrong thing. He knows he's doing the wrong thing, but he's going to convince himself with all sorts of rationales why I'm doing right. As it says in Bereshit, Vayomer Esav bilibo. Again, he's talking to his heart. He's convincing himself because his heart really knows what's right or wrong. Vayomer Yeravam bilibo, says the Navi in Melachim. And what does it say in Megillat Esther? Vayomer Haman bilibo. Haman also knew what he was doing was wrong, but he had to convince himself to continue on his evil path. And what is it? He said to himself, they say to themselves, they allow their emotions to rule over them. Their emotions, their passions. What about by the tzaddikim? V'chana hi medaberet al liba. Chana spoke to her heart. Amar nava belibo, he says in his heart, here she speaks al liba. She controls her passions. Vayom David el libo. He controlled his heart and his passions. Vayasem Daniel al libo. He controlled his heart again. The difference between a Rasha and a Tzaddik is exactly this. Can she control their emotions and their passions? If you find yourself giving into your passions and emotions, you have not yet Torah seep into you to be able to control that. This idea segues into Rav Belsky. He says, let's take for a moment, look at Ahashverosh, and let's look at Haman. Ahashverosh had everything. The Psukim in Megillah tells us how beautiful his palace was. All the types of materials they used. It's in depth, really in depth. Ahashverosh had everything. But never happy. He's always collecting taxes. He is upset when his wife tells him no. He has a half a year party, still not happy. No matter what he has. There is no simhat hayim by him. Hey, Rabelsky says there are few human beings who have ever indulged their desires and fantasies to the extent that Ahashverosh did. That despite his incredible lifestyle, he was empty. He was void. He was bitter. He's ready to sell out the Jews for some money. Doesn't need the money. Take it anyway. He had everything in life. And yet, no happiness. Haman, says Rabbi Belsky. What about Haman? Haman. He was a man of what? What was his tava? What was his desire?
Kavod.
Kavod. The good old kavod. I want respect. Manki, you know who I am. Who I deserve. What I do. What you should give me. Haman. Everybody's bowing down to him. The whole world is bowing down to him. One old Jew. is not bowing down to him. And what does he say? Nothing is worth it. One old Jew, you can just say he's senile, he's crazy, just leave him alone. No. His tava for kavod cannot be fulfilled. You give somebody 100, he wants 200. You give him 200, he wants 400. There's never an end. When a person can't control his desires, and there's no end to his desire, he's a slave to his desires forever. That is Haman. That is Ahashverosh. The guy has everything. He's got the biggest party on planet Earth. Never ends. He has all the kavod that he can possibly get. Still, not enough. Haman was a slave, as he could never satisfy his thirst for power. Ahashverosh was a slave, despite being an emperor, as he could never satisfy his desire for pleasure. He was a slave with a golden crown. So even if you have a golden crown, you're still a slave, like we saw.
It's something we don't know what it is anymore.
In contrast, Mordechai HaTzadik, he's dressed in sackcloth and ashes. Mordechai was a true king. He ruled over everything, and nothing in the world ruled over him. He wasn't scared of Haman. People are going to talk, people are going to say. First of all, why are people talking in the first place? You never heard of Lashon Hara? People are talking left, right, saying about this guy. Oh, he goes there, he doesn't come here. He does this, does that. What's your business? Your job is not to do Lashon Hara. And then, what about the people who listen to the Lashon Hara? Because if someone's speaking, someone's listening. He wouldn't speak if you're not listening. What are we getting involved in? Can't control themselves. Have to talk about people, talk about this, talk about that. Let me tell you something I learned in life. Whenever they ask you about somebody, the guy is the best guy. I love him. He's the best. He's great. Why? He's another Jew. Now, if you're dealing with shidduchim and other stuff like that, you have to ask how you're supposed to answer those type of questions. But stam, if someone says, oh, what do you think about that guy? Mwah! Tzaddik, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's child. How could you say anything else? How could you say anything else? The guy's asking you, can I do a deal with him in business, and it's a serious matter, how trustworthy is him? So that's a different story. You ask your Rav how you should answer him. You're doing a shidduch, something like that, fine. But stam to talk about people? A person can't control himself. But Mordechai, totally independent. Totally free. Doesn't care what anyone says. Purim, says Rav Belsky, is a very important holiday. Why? We were freed, so to speak. There was a Geulah. There's a Kimu v'Kiblu HaTorah. LaYudim hayta ora v'simcha v'sason v'ikar. Think about it. In Purim, did we get back to Eretz Yisrael? No. But yet we had a Geulah. We had a saving. In fact, the Yalkut Shimoni, Al Midrashim say that if it ever happened that some of the holidays would disappear, whatever that means, because if the Torah was given and we say Lo Nishten, it's never going to change, so the Pesach's going to stay, Sukkot's going to stay, everything's going to stay. It's not going to go away. It's not going to change. But if there was ever a holiday that'll be eclipsed, that won't be so recognized anymore, Purim always stays. Why does Purim always stay? Meaning that it always is on a high level. That's what Chachamim say. Purim, right? Ki Yom HaKippurim, that Yom Kippur is like Purim. Purim is at a very, very high level. What makes it so high? Right? It's the last book that's in the canon of the biblical canon, right? In the Tanakh, this is the last sefer in the time period, right? Is this Megillat Esther? So, why is it so special? Says Rav Belsky, the fulfillment of Jewish life does not require complete political independence. I don't need to have politically to be completely independent. What does it require? A real Geulah? It requires spiritual independence to pursue a life of avodat Hashem. Who's free? Someone who can do Torah u'mitzvot. LaYehudim hayta ora. What does the Gemara say is ora? Ora? Ze Torah. LaYehudim hayta ora v'simcha. What's simcha? Is Yom Tov. LaYehudim hayta ora v'simcha v'sason v'ikar. What's sason? Is milah, brit milah. And vikar is what? Vikar is honor. What gives you honor? Your tefillin. We sing it like right? What are we singing there? Everyone's just saying words. Nobody knows what they're saying. That we had the ability now again, after getting rid of Haman, to learn Torah, to have Yom Tov, to do Brit Milah, and to wear tefillin. That was the excitement. That was the freedom. That was the redemption that happened in Simchat Purim. That is what Purim is about, Rabotai. Purim is about us being able to do mitzvot. Ein lecha ben chorin ele mi she'osek b'Torah. Chazal and Avot say you don't have someone who's free except someone who can learn Torah. Mi she'osek b'Torah. Why is that? A person who learns Torah, he's able to control himself. A person who learns Torah is able to rationally think. A person who learns Torah, he is angelic. Why? Because he's able to overcome his human tendencies and natures and nurture, whatever you want to say. He's a true melech. He's a ben horim. It's the Torah. It's kimu v'kiblu. That's what it means they accepted the Torah. They accepted the Torah to realize what? That we are free to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we're no longer going to serve the whims and the wills of those around us. The whole party of Ahasuerus, or the Jews went, was because they said, what is he going to think if we don't come? He made sure the Jews should come. He made sure Mordechai will be the Mashgiach. He made sure that everything will be kosher. We have to go. If we don't go, it's going to be problems. They were making all sorts of calculations. Instead of doing what the Torah said. Instead of doing what the Gadol Hador told them, don't go. They didn't listen. But now they realized that what? The Torah is what really makes them free. When they go on the right path. And so, we spoke about many interesting ideas and we gave many interesting stories. But the main concept that we need to come out with, and we spend the next few minutes on the halakha portion of the class, the main concept we want to bring out here, Rabotai, uchavod utifarit. It says in this week's parasha, Hashem told the Jews to make clothing for the honor of the Kohanim. The chavod utifarit. Clothing. Ahasuerus also used clothing. But Ahasuerus was a slave to his clothing. I have to buy Gucci. I have to buy, Versace. Right? I have to buy, I don't know what the other names of these companies are. You'll help me out. Louis Vuitton, okay. I have to buy these things. I'm forced to it. Spend thousands of dollars. Because the person is a slave to his desires. But the Kohanim, Kadosh Baruch Hu tells them you're going to wear a funny hat. They wear it. Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to tell them you put on this shirt and these pants and this belt and it looked majestic. But they didn't wear it for themselves. In fact, the Gemara says that they were only allowed to do the avodah when they were wearing those clothing. If they didn't wear those clothing, there's a shita that says maybe they're not Kohanim during that time. There's a shita that says they're only Kohanim when they wear their clothing. The clothing makes the man. That's true. But don't let the clothing rule over the man. Don't let your food, don't let your desires to control you. Rather, you control it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said you have to dress nicely. You don't have to dress fancy. You don't have to dress, you're not allowed to dress not nicely. You have to dress like a Ben Torah. You have to dress appropriately. This is a job that we all have to do. Now, I want to spend the last few minutes on a halachic topic, which is, this week we're reading Parshat Zachor. Alright, Zachor the Amalek. Remember what Amalek did to you. So here's the question, Rabotai. Today we see, number one, the ladies, they like to come for Parshat Zachor. They all come. Not only that, many shuls, including ours, and we'll put out the schedule after looking at what time everything is. They also have that the ladies in the afternoon, those who couldn't come in the morning, come again to hear Parshat Zachor. If they didn't hear it in the morning, right? They couldn't come shul, they come later. So the real question is, does the lady have a requirement to hear Parshat Zachor? And if she does, can Parshat Zachor be read without a minyan? When we read it in the morning, we have a minyan of men. When we take it out in the afternoon, there's not a minyan of men. Maybe 2-3 men in the shul, whatever it is. And then the ladies come and they hear they pick it out, they put it in. Now obviously we do it, so we're going to have to permit it. But let's walk a little bit through the process. Are ladies mechuyev? Are they not?
We learned this week, no.
What?
We learned this week, no.
You learned this week, no. So let's go through the Indian. If you already went through the Indian, you'll entertain me by listening again. The Sefer HaChinuch says that the mitzvah is on the men to hear Zachor Asher Yasadacha Amalek, because the pasuk there says you have to go and fight a war against Amalek. So says the Sefer HaChinuch, who goes to fight a war?
Soldiers, men.
Soldiers. Who's the soldiers? Men. So men who have to go to war, they're the ones that have to hear Parshat Zachor. The Minhat Chinuch says, I have 3 problems with this. Number 1, he says, the mitzvah is Zechirat Maaseh Amalek, to remember what Amalek did. And that mitzvah is not a mitzvah shezman grama. There's no time that says it has to be done at this time. We choose a time, but it can really be done any time throughout the year. That's if someone didn't hear it now. We tell them Parshat Tetzaveh. When you get to that mafter, have attention then. So the Minchas Chinuch says, number 1, it's not a shezman grama. Number 2, how does the chinuch know that the war is connected to the kriyah? Oh, you don't have to hear it because you're not in the war. Why are you connecting it? Says the Minchas Chinuch. Who tells you to connect the war effort against Amalek to the greeting of Amalek? And third, says the Minchas Chinuch, who says that a woman is pater from the war? We know in Milchemet Mitzvah, right? It's brought down in the Gemara. Even a kala must leave the chuppah to go help the war effort. Okay. You're right. I don't know about the massage part, but the other things we can deal with. So that's what the Minchas Chinuch says. Why are you connecting it? It shouldn't be connected. It's a mitzvah, it's not as man grama. And even if you want to connect it, women are part of the war effort. So there's a Sefer Marcheshes, and he says, maybe the only time a woman is involved with the war effort, if it's a milchama, like by Yehoshua's time, which was to conquer Eretz Yisrael. Milchemet mitzvah to conquer Eretz Yisrael. When you're fighting Amalek, you're not doing it to conquer Eretz Yisrael. You already have Israel, right? So therefore, maybe the woman doesn't go to the war effort over there. The Radvaz, he writes that what Yosef was saying, she's not in the war effort as a soldier, right? It's to go and fight the war, talking to the soldiers. She is a helper, right? She provides sustenance and supplies. Maybe she carries the weapons. I don't know what she does there, but I guess you can go to see what they use the women for in the armies and not actually fight in the battles. What?
They will be distracted.
They're distracted. No.
The soldiers will be distracted.
Our soldiers are tzaddikim. Otherwise, they go home. They're not able to fight. Then, the Torah Chesed, Shal Shua Torah Chesed, he says Who said it's not a mitzvah shizman grama? We did make it a mitzvah shizman grama. We did give it time to it. We said before Shabbat, before Purim. So now it is a mitzvah shizman grama. And therefore, the woman is patur. So, there's a machloket over here, poskim. Which way you go? So he brings some more views. The Hafetz Chaim in Sefer HaMitzvot HaKatzar, he says that women are obligated in Parshat Zachor. Rabbi Shua Leib Diskin, Shal Shuva Kunchas Achron, writes that women are obligated to hear Parshat Zachor. And he gives another time, another reason, because we say, Af hen hayu bo'oto hanes. They also were involved in the miracle. Haman didn't say, Amalek didn't say, I'm not going to kill the woman. Everybody was on the chopping block. So Af hen bo'oto hanes, therefore they also have to hear it. Rav Weiss says, I don't know, Af hen bo'oto hanes, how much that has to do with this reading, and he argues on this. Maybe it doesn't apply to a mitzvah d'oraita. Okay, so there is a back and forth over here. Machloket poskim, machloket acharonim. Should I not? Is it possible? All right. So we have machloket. That's number one. Now let's go to the next section. How do you do the mitzvah? Tosafot says that to fulfill this mitzvah of Zecher Amalek, Parshat Zachor, you have to take a Torah and read the psukim from the Torah. That's what he says. Take a Torah, read from the Torah. The Rosh, on the other hand, the Rosh says you have to read it in a minyan. The Rosh says you can't just read it. You have to read it in a minyan. In fact, the Rosh says there's a Gemara that tells us that Eliezer freed his Eved in order to complete a minyan. Says the Rosh, which minyan? To hear Parshat Zachor, they needed a minyan. So he freed his Eved for the mitzvah d'oraita of hearing Parshat Zachor. That's what the Rosh says. Okay. The Shulchan Aruch rules that there are those who maintain Parshat Zachor as d'oraita. And therefore it's necessary, so he says, for those who do not live near a minyan, to come to a place where they're able to hear the parsha. Shulchan Aruch elsewhere writes that one must hear Parshat Zachor with a minyan. Rav Asher Weiss says, listen, when the Shulchan Aruch is saying they have to come to a minyan, not necessarily because you only can read it in the minyan, but rather because that's where it's being read. And in the village, they don't have the Sefer Torah, they're not reading it, they don't know how to read it, so therefore tell them to come there. But he says maybe it's not proof of Shulchan Aruch, but you have to hear it in a minyan. So there's something over there. The Shulchan Aruch actually meant it has to be in a minyan like the Rosh or not. Interestingly enough, the Rambam, the Chinuch, make no mention of reading Parshat Zachor from the Torah. They understand that Zechirat Amalek is like Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadesho. The pasuk says, remember Shabbat to make it holy. Do you have to take out the Sefer Torah to make Kiddush? No. So says the Rambam and the Chinuch, they want to understand the Rambam and the Chinuch, the same thing. It says, Zecher Amalek. You remember what Amalek did? Parshat Zachor. It doesn't mean you have to read it from the Torah. So you have here three machloket. You have here machloket rishonim as follows. Number one, you can read it from a book. That's the Rambam and the Chinuch. I don't need a Sefer Torah. I have Tosafot. I have to read it from a Sefer Torah. I have the Rosh. I have to read it from the Sefer Torah in the minyan. So you have these different levels over here. How you fulfill the mitzvah? Which part are you supposed to read? So we read the end of Parshat Ki Tetzaveh from Devarim, Parshat Ki Tetzaveh. We read about Amalek. In Parshat B'Shalach, we also have about Amalek, which is what we read on Purim morning before we read the Megillat Esther. We receive Torah from that Parashah. The Magen Avraham says that you can fulfill the mitzvah of Parshat Zachor by listening to Vayavo Amalek, what you read on Purim morning. Parshat B'Shalach, you can fulfill it then. We don't really go with that. That is the Magen Avraham in 685. One can fulfill the mitzvah by reading the Parshat of Vayavo Amalek from the end of Parashat B'Shalach. The Mishnah disagrees with this. And he says, no, it's not just the story, but you have to read about going to war, and that is found in Parshat Ki Tetzaveh. The Rambam describes the mitzvah of Zichirat Amalek is to remember what he did and strengthen ourselves to wipe out Amalek. Again, not reading from the Torah, but rather just having the wherewithal to go there. Okay. So how to fulfill the mitzvah is also a machoket. Okay, so you have the machoket of ladies in it or not, and I have machoket how you fulfill the mitzvah. Now, says Rabbi Leibowitz over here. This is a beautiful sefer if anyone wants to get. It's called Kinyan Halacha, where Rabbi Leibowitz goes through different inyanim for each parsha that are related to the parsha based on halachas, based on the parsha, which is fascinating sefer. Rabbi Leibowitz also is here in North Woodmere. He has a shul over there, and he's a head of the smicha program at Yeshiva Rabbeinu Yitzchak Elchanan. Okay, so he writes over here: if we accept the opinions above that women are obligated in Parshat Zachor, does it follow that they should hear from a Sefer Torah as men would? We say men have to hear from a Sefer Torah, so women also have to? Rav Asher Weiss suggests that even if women are chayavot in the mitzvah, since they never do Kriyat Torah, for them it's enough to read it from a book. Read it from a chumash. That's all. That's Rav Asher Weiss. He says they can read it from a Sefer. The Kleisenberger Rebbe would instruct women not to come to shul. In fact, the Mishnah Berurah, even though the Chafetz Chaim in Hilchot in the Sefer Mitzvot says women are obligated, in the Mishnah Berurah he writes that that he doesn't say that women are obligated. In the Mishnah Berurah he doesn't say they're obligated, and says Rav Asher Weiss that if women were obligated, Mishnah Berurah would have written it, and he never wrote that women are obligated. In fact, there are people who say that the Chafetz Chaim did not allow the women of his family to go to shul for Parshat Zachor. He said you don't have to go. He didn't allow them to go. Rav Chaim Kanievsky quotes the Chazon Ish, who said that women did not have to go. Rav Yaakov Rochmeyer records that Moshe Feinstein also held that women do not need to go to shul for Parshat Zachor. So what? That's what he brings down. Now, where does it come? Rav Nosson Adler, who was the Rebbe of the Chatam Sofer, he said a woman have to come to shul for Parshat Zachor. The Minchat Yitzchak today says the common minhag is to come. We'll take a look in the Yalkut Yosef in a moment. What he says should be our we having yet? Not yet, right? Yosef, we having yet?
Well, 9.
So tell me when the 10th one comes in, okay? So, in the end of the day, there are different poskim back and forth over here. I want to read to you from the Yalkut Yosef, so everybody has what should we do. He writes over here as follows. Okay, I'm going to read to you. Okay, women. What should I write this over here? See, if I wrote clearer, I wouldn't be in this. Okay. Some poskim ruled that women are obligated to come to the shul in order to hear Parshat Zachor. It's not because he writes what? It's not a mitzvah shesman grama. Other poskim ruled women are not obligated since the whole thing is about fighting the war, and they're not fighting the war. Okay. Women, and he writes as follows. Listen to this. Women who practice leniently have a basis to rely on. Nevertheless, mikol makom, hamachmirot, those who are machmir, lavo le'ezrat nashim, letseti de chovat kriyat parashat zachor, aliba de kuli alma, tavo alehem beracha. Says the Yalkut Yosef that if women do come, even though there's lenient opinions they don't have to come, according to everyone, even according to the lenient opinions, they would still get a beracha if they came to hear Parashat Zachor. So in the end of the day, the Yalkut Yosef seems to be recommending the woman to come. Now he writes even further. They can't come because they have the kids at home. At a minimum, they should read from the Chumash Parashat Zachor. Right? Then he writes, and this is what our practice is, Umutar lehotzi sefer Torah b'miuchad l'nashim. You can take out a sefer Torah for read it for the women. Likro lahem b'Parshat Zachor b'li beracha. To just take it out and read Parshat Zachor again in the afternoon, whenever it is, for them again. And he says over here, for those who say we never take out a Torah if there's no minyan, he says that's not true. Because there are many communities that during the days of the Nisi'im and Chodesh Nisan, when we read the Nisi'im every morning, we read the Nasi for that day, if you go to any Hasidic community, they take out the Sefer Torah and they read it there. And does not necessarily have to be a minyan. And it's not for the mitzvah. They're just reading it kriyah for kriyah, just to read. So therefore he says, you can read to just read, and that would be okay as well. And so, they
I have 10.
you want to get him back? And he says over here, the Menukah Rebbe also said it's not a problem, and therefore the halacha l'maaseh rabotai, yes, women should come if they can. If they can't, they should read it from a chumash, and the Beit Knesset has all rights to make a later reading, which our later reading will be Bezat Hashem. We'll make it before Mincha, or should we make it before the Shir? We'll discuss. Okay, we'll discuss. We have a minyan, Ken? Rabbi Hanuk Shalom Ben Atzakah Baruch Hu Zachor Yisrael.